Hey guys, I want to pop on and talk to you about body readings and what we can do with body readings. When we have something going on in our body, whether there's a particular part of your body that's not cooperating with you, maybe there's a chronic misalignment, maybe there's an acute pain you're having, maybe it's a chronic illness, or maybe it's something with the shape of your body, like you're exercising and working out, but you're not losing weight. And we like to look at the energetics underneath that because the body doesn't just freak out by itself. Everything is driven by the mind. The body is just where it shows up eventually. So if we don't deal with the deeper levels of the underlying root, so to speak, then we're not going to get permanent resolution of our problem. Maybe we'll be able to manage it, but we won't get like a permanent resolution. So I'm going to give you two different examples of how this works. So I was working with one of my clients a few days ago, specifically on, she had a particular part of her body, hips, thighs, that were just bulky and would not budge. And she was going to the gym, she was running, she had a perfect diet, but no matter what she did, this part of her body wouldn't change. And so when we're talking about bodies and bulkiness and buildup of tissue, it's usually not fat. It's usually just fascia. And yes, sometimes fat does get stuck into the fascia, but most of the time it's just the soft tissue. And we could do a whole webcast just on fascia because it's so amazing. But what it is it's like the storehouse of your consciousness. It pads your body to protect you. It becomes, rigid as a reaction to your own mental rigidity. But every part of the body is dealing with a certain part of the mind, a certain part of your awareness. So hips are about movement in life, and thighs are about, your whole leg really is about standing up and being able to take action and walk forward and kind of claim your space, like this is what I want and this is what I'm gonna do. And so when I tuned into her, the first thing that came up was, girl, you need to give yourself a greater bandwidth of choices. You're not giving yourself enough space in your life. You're giving yourself, this many choices when really you need a huge spectrum of choices. And she was, making some changes in her life. And what it was is she just wasn't giving herself any movement. She was so rigid, sticking to this one little box of things, going in around and around and around in that same box. And maybe you've done that yourself, right? And so when we started to work with the mental stuff that was happening and give her that greater bandwidth of things to choose from, and started working on the soft tissue, then she started feeling a release, because we want to work at the physical level and at the energetic level. Okay? And so then the body can start to change, because the body is reflecting our consciousness. Our body doesn't need that padding, right? It's like a way that we're talking about fascia. It's like a girdle in the body, and it holds us in this little box, because that's what's happening in the mind. It's really fascinating. Let me give you another example. So I was working with a client on the phone a few nights ago, and she was experiencing this numbness in her arm and up the side of her head and some tightness in her back. And so when I zoomed into her, I zoomed in right between her shoulder blades, and I said, you've got a misalignment. You've got to go to the chiropractor for one, but let's see what's underneath. Let's see what's triggering this misalignment. And the first thing that came to me was, this is too much. So I asked her, what is happening in your life right now? What's going on? It's like, I feel like it's a winding up of your tissue. And it feels like it's too much. And so she said, oh my God, Kelly, this is exactly what I said to myself at work the other day, was this is too much. Everything was coming at me so fast, and it was just overwhelming. And I said out loud, this is too much. And so I said, voila, there we go. So we work at the level of the mind to deal with the stress that's happening in the body. Then we work at the level of the body to really cycle some of that stress out, because when it builds up and we don't get it out of the body, then it will collect in the body, and the body will say, hey, you've got too much going on here, because the body's always trying to talk to us, and we can tune into the body. The body will show us what we need, right? My first client, she needed more space, and her body was trying to tell her that. Actually, she specifically said, I have been craving wide open spaces lately. And I said, yes, that's why, because your body is always trying to tell you what you need to bring this vehicle back into homeostasis. Not just this vehicle, but your entire life. It's like your body has such an innate wisdom about it, and it's always trying to speak to us. But if we're not tuned in and we can't decode the messages, then we're going to miss the messages, and the body is going to speak louder and louder and louder and louder. So if you're interested in doing a body reading to see what's happening for you, give me a shout. This is what I do. You can visit my website, www.kellymlibby.com, or find me on Facebook or Instagram. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.